the regulating cycle, and a deep understanding. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I want to talk more deeply about something I mentioned earlier, the regulating cycle, because it's not as simple as just staying calm. And for many of us, especially if we grew up needing to cope on our own, regulation is something we actually have to learn as adults. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly where regulating really happens and why most people are trying to do it in the wrong place. What regulation really is, when people hear the word regulation, they often think it means never getting triggered. But regulation isn't about never activating. It's about being able to move through activation and return to safety. Something happens, a tone, a voice, a memory, an unexpected invitation, financial stress, or even a look from someone you care about. And before your mind explains it, your body's reacted. Your heart rate shifts, your breathing changes, your thoughts speed up. You may feel defensive, or maybe withdrawal, busy or overly responsible. This is your nervous system doing what it learned to do. And here's what most people misunderstand. This regulation does not happen at the peak of activation. Where regulation actually happens, the regulating cycle looks like this. Trigger, activation, peak. Downshift, repair, return. The trigger sets things off. Activation is the body preparing to defend, fix, avoid, or cope. The peak is where people react, but the real work of regulation happens on the way down. You don't regulate at the peak, you regulate during the downshift, when you pause instead of firing back, when you step outside, when your breath slows down instead of over-explaining. That is when you are teaching your body something new. And if that downshift never happened constantly when you were young, the cycle can get interrupted. When the cycle gets interrupted, if you grew up in a steady environment, you likely learned upset, comfort, calm. But if you grew up needing to manage your own, you may have learned upset, stay alert, stay reliant, don't lean. That can look like independence, but underneath it can be unfinished activation. Activation doesn't just disappear, it follows you into adulthood, into relationships and into work. In moments that look completely ordinary on the outside, it can show up as always being braced, always being prepared, always being the capable one, but briefly feeling fully settled, and this is where it becomes even more noticeable in caregiving. A personal example, I noticed this recently when someone invited me to Christmas. Nothing dramatic happened, but I felt tightening in my body, a stubble pressure, not anger, not rejection, just a resistance to committing. Years ago I might have judged myself for that. I might have thought I was being distant or difficult. Now I understand it differently. It was conditioning. My system learned not to get tangled. It was protecting, not coldness. And that understanding changes everything. Regulating in caregiving places enormous pressure on the regulating cycle. When someone you love is unwell, fragile, or declining, your system activates often. You are making decisions, managing discomfort, holding emotions, staying steady for someone else. If you don't know how to downshift and repair, you can remain in chronic activation. The chronic activation feels like exhaustion, irritability, numbness, decision fatigue. Regulation and caregiving might look like taking 5 minutes alone before responding, lowering your voice instead of raising it, giving a loved one time to decide, forcing the moment, letting your body settle before making the next call. Every time you allow the cycle to complete, you reduce long-term strain. You teach your nervous system that activation can end, that safety can return. The deeper layer, if no one helped you regulate as a child, someone steadying you while you were upset, then learning self-regulation as an adult can feel unfamiliar. It can feel slow and clumsy, even uncomfortable, but it is learnable. Regulation isn't about perfection. It's about letting the cycle finish. Not staying permanently alert, not staying self-reliant to the point of isolation. The more you complete the cycle, the less your life will be in survival. So everyone, goodbye and thank you for watching. And look, please leave questions in the comments. I'd love to read something. And please, have a good weekend and take care.